teachers of Reddit. What is your "this student is so dumb it's scary" story? Back when I was teaching high school, I was giving an exam to my first year students, and one of them stole the key to the exam the second year students were taking. He was not subtle about it either. The whole fake a sneeze, go get tissue, pick up a large piece of paper, and think your skinny teenage body can conceal it angle. I should have said something, but the fact that I was so fed up with this sort of crap by that point is one of the reasons I quit teaching high school. Anyway, that's not what made it such a dumb decision. What made it dumb was, when he bombed the exam, he tried to claim that I purposefully misgraded his exam because I hated him, and even got his mother in on it for a parent conference, which means his own mother was front and center for me when I pointed out how his answer form was a perfect match for a test he didn't take. Mom was not happy with him, to say the least, though for the icing on the cake, she did ask that I'll let him retake the real test, and since she honestly seemed to care a lot more than many of the parents I met, and since I did admittedly feel a little guilty for not trying to prevent it in the first place, not that I admitted to that part, as a compromise we let him come after school to retry at a penalty. And in the end, he freaking aced the test. He was normally a C student or so, and if he'd just done that the first time, the weight of the exam probably would bumped him up low. Aesop couldn't have turned it into a better cheaters never prosper fable. I don't usually wear glasses when I teach, except for one day, and it was subsequently a big deal among all my 5th graders. The next day, at the start of class, I noticed a girl in the front row wearing glasses for the first time. Something seemed a little off, so I finally decided to chime in. "Emily, what's the deal with the glasses? These? I need them to see, but they don't have any lenses." She appeared befuddled and said, "They don't?" before lifting her finger up to one of the eye frames and poking herself in the eye. I volunteered to do the book fair for my old middle school. My mom was the assistant librarian. I had a 7th grader come up to purchase a poster of a car. The price was $3. He pulled out 2 $1 bills and set it on the desk in front of me. He then pulled out a handful of change and set it on the table. He asked, "Is this enough?" I said, "Well, you need $1 more." He then picked out 2 quarters and 2 dimes. "Now?" he asked. I said, "That's 70 cents. You need 30 more." He picked out 3 nickels and added them to the pile. "There you go," he said. I then proceeded to ask him what he thought the denominations for each coin were, and he legit did not know. I had to give him a quick lesson in the value of each coin and helped him count out $1 in change. To me, this situation is ridiculous. We will all have to deal with money throughout our lives. You have to learn to know the value of each coin and know how to add money. I'm a professor grading papers now, and I have a few contenders right here. This one student blatantly plagiarized in his first paper. I mean, just cutting and pasting from web pages. He didn't even strail form the primary sources, and they weren't even scholarly web pages. I was so surprised at how badly he plagiarized that I gave him the benefit of the doubt that maybe he didn't understand what it really was. I just gave him a 0 along with an email describing the issue in detail with some additional links for whole sites that do the facts really well. We met, and I explained it to him. He was abjectly apologetic and explained that he had missed the nuances before grading the final paper. Same shit all over again. And I test this stuff using a free website I found just on Google, and it takes like 2 minutes to check. What the fuck is he thinking? Also, the non-plagiarized part, it's so poorly written I don't know how he even got in, much less made it to be a junior at a selective school. The guy's is also premed. WTF. I'm a professor grading papers now, and I have a few contenders right here. This one student blatantly plagiarized in his first paper. I mean, just cutting and pasting from web pages. He didn't even strail form the primary sources, and they weren't even scholarly web pages. I was so surprised at how badly he plagiarized that I gave him the benefit of the doubt that maybe he didn't understand what it really was. I just gave him a 0 along with an email describing the issue in detail with some additional links for whole sites that do the facts really well. We met, and I explained it to him. He was abjectly apologetic and explained that he had missed the nuances before grading the final paper. Same poop all over again. and I test this stuff using a free website I found just on Google, and it takes like 2 minutes to check. What the frick is he thinking? Also the non-plagiarized part, it's so poorly written I don't know how he even got in, much less made it to be a junior at a selective school. The guys is also premed. WTF. I'm a flight instructor. Had a student who really wasn't cut out for flying. Before each lesson his job was to do a pre-flight on the airplane and make sure everything was working. One of the items you check during the pre-flight are the flaps. Basically, they are a flap of metal that extends from the aft section of the wing and drops down into the airstream during landings. Well, we fly a Cessna 172 where the wings are on top of the cockpit, above the pilot, and the flaps are situated just behind the door. Without fail, this guy opens the door, moves the switch to deploy the flaps, and turns around to run face first into the flaps he just lowered. It's funny the first, concerning the second time, and expected after the 10th time. Every single lesson. Not a school teacher, but I've taught swim lessons in the past. I was once teaching the adult learn to swim class, and had an incredibly dumb dude, let's call him Rusty, sign up. Rusty was a 100-pound guy with an absolute fear of water. He wouldn't even shower, but he decided that swimming lessons were gonna cure him. It was the first day when we were just getting accustomed to the water and helping people with a phobia start to get over it. The first few people are puttering around in the shallow end, 1 meter deep, and getting a feel for the water. Some of them were immigrants from someplace very dry and had never been in a pool before, so it was quite the experience for them, and things were getting loud. All of a sudden, I hear Rusty give his best bald eagle screech attempt, sprint down the deck, and launch himself into the deep end, 4 meters deep. He immediately starts drowning, no fat, no float, and is going down fast. My assistant, the lifeguard, got him holding onto the rescue tube, and pushed him to the shallow end, still screaming and flailing. He hauled himself up the stairs, and started sprinting for the deep end again, and chucked himself back in. I went in after him, since my assistant was still in the water, and dragged him out again. He tried to do it a third time, but I was able to stop him, until security showed up, to hold him back for his own safety. I never saw him again after that day, but I'll never know why he, an aquaphobic non-swimmer, would think jumping in the deep end was a good idea. Okay, so I used to be a teacher, and then I went into teacher education. So I supervised student teachers in the field, meaning I'd go out and observe them teaching their classes. As an observer, one's job is only to observe, not to offer comments during the observation, so you literally say nothing. It was a 5th grade social studies class and they were discussing Ben Franklin. One student asked what number president was he, and the teacher was like, I don't know. Followed by like a 10 to 15 minute debate in the class, and with the teacher about which number president he was. Open bracket. Obviously the 5th graders aren't so dumb it's scary, but thank goodness the student teacher finally decided to use a Google to answer their question. I've had kids turn in papers that were clearly plagiarized, but one kid didn't bother to change the font color on his paper. It was a pretty clear case. I had another who was supposed to be researching a technological innovation, the history and impacts of it. One kid chose the telephone. His paper was not only obviously plagiarized, but it was literally an ad for telephones.com. The kid had clearly not even bothered to do anything other than just go to telephones.com and copy and paste. But my all-time favorite is the kid who stopped me and said, "Is Chicago a city or a country?" I told him it was a city. He considered that for a minute and then said, "Wait, then what's a state?" Not a teacher but a student. I was in a geology class and the teacher was talking about lava and this one kid stops the teacher to ask, does lava burn? Like, would anything bad happen if I put my finger in it? Naturally the teacher and the rest of us assumed he was joking, and the teacher just kinda laughed. The kid then says that he's actually serious. The teacher just kinda looks at him like WTF, and he says yes, and carries on not wanting to waste time. I was still convinced the kid was joking, so I asked him after class if was just joking and trying to frig with the teacher when he said he was serious. He then tells me that he really was serious. That's not the first time he said something that dumb, so I don't find it very hard to believe that he might have been serious. In my design class, I had this girl who had placed a garage beside the house, but couldn't, for the life of God, figure out why her 90 cm by 200 cm door was not appropriate for a car to enter through. Same girl planned a small space for children in a library. Said space was only 1.5 meters high, and no matter what the teacher said, she kept going back to, but this space is for children. They are not tall, but they will suffocate. But it is a space for children.